Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. My name is Charles, and with me today is my lifelong friend and co-host, Dylan.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friends, Charles.
Yes, we say friends, plural, yet again, because today we have a very special guest on the episode. We have Beth Tabler from Before We Go blog, as well as a site leader on Grimdark magazine. Beth, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Our pleasure. Beth, would you like to just take a quick moment to introduce yourself and tell us what you do over on Before We Go blog and on Grimdark magazine and all that good stuff?
Sure. I started out as a book reviewer a few years ago because I love books and I got kind of an obsession about books. And I would like, instead of annoying my family, I would like to annoy other people in the world. So I do these reviews, and then I got the site going, and it was going really great. And then Grimdark magazine approached me and like, hey, would you like to write for us? And I'm like, absolutely. And so I started doing that, and it's kind of just spiraled from there. And
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. You know, Dylan and I have been like, we recognized you as a presence right away when we first entered the Twitter book community, and you were writing all these fantastic blogs, doing all these great interviews, collaborations, and then you were a very early supporter of us as well, which we always greatly appreciated. Right. And so you even like let Dylan into the mix also. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Dylan?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you so much, Beth, for your really early support of us at FTF. It was Charles and I were getting really excited. We're like, oh my God, Beth Tabler is. I know sometimes hard to see it in yourself when you're you, but when we're us, we're able to see like, oh my God, Beth Tabler is like saying nice things about us. So that was awesome. And then another big moment for me was when you contacted me about joining Before We Go blog. And I'm loving it. I'm loving being part of the team and being involved in our team's part of SPFBO 7, self-published fantasy blog off. It's just an honor, and the team that you've assembled is so much fun. So many great people
on good people on our team.
Like the reviews that come out of you guys, and even like the Twitter exchanges you guys have publicly as well, are always so fun to watch. So Beth, I have to know, what's it like working with Dylan, to have another perspective?
That's terrible.
I know it's so good to have someone that shares this in common. Like it's like this support group that we can have now.
Imagine being me. You get a break.
Yeah, you can join the group. I guess it'll be the three of us.
I have to do it myself all the time.
You're fantastic. I'm so honored that you wanted to be part of the team. That's so great.
Oh,
thank you, Beth. I'm getting around to actually holding up my end of doing things now. Finally, I had that review a little while back, and I'm working on more. So I'm just really excited for the opportunity. I always feel bad. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. I love being part of the team, and your leadership is awesome. You're such a supportive, caring, and strong leader for the team, and I really admire how you run things over there.
Yeah, my only thing about reviewing is there's no stress, because this is supposed to be fun. The second it stops being fun, we need to change things, because I don't want to do something that's not fun, and I don't expect anybody else to want to do something that's not fun. So
that's well said. Yes. We share a similar mission.
No stress.
Exactly.
Charles is nodding because he knew the only way to get me to do the podcast was he was like, we should do like a mission statement, and he was like, well, number one is have fun, and I was like, okay, now I'll do this. And Beth, you give that same energy and mission statement for Before We Go blog, but it can't silence the inner critic that tells me I for some reason don't think I'm doing enough when no external pressure is coming.
Your review recently got so many accolades. Like,
it's a good review.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Somebody told me, I don't want to write a review now because I would never be as good as yours.
Wow, high praise.
Was that me? Did I say that to you about my past reviews? Because that sounds like, I think I peaked. No, thank you, Beth.
Yeah, no, Dylan's always very thoughtful, and he like his commitment to like telling the whole picture and going through every perspective serves him very well in those kind of environments. And I'm glad he's got the outlet on your blog. Is such a great place to start, because I've always like my quick like elevator pitch of like Beth Tabler and Before We Go blog was like, oh, if anything's happening, they probably know it and are involved in it and have written something about it. So it's like that. It's like, it's serious when it's in their connection. So I'm always like, man, if we're plugged into that network, that's like a huge deal. And that's why, you know, when we were deciding that we wanted to like do a thing talking more about SPFBO, now that Dylan has joined your team, it's like, well, we have to have Beth on because she's going to be like the best source of information that we have access to, or that anyone has access to, of like what SPFBO is, because you've been in it and involved in it. And you're an influencer in it. So it's like, man, what's the point in us trying to explain it when Beth is so generous with their time and knowledge, you know?
It's cutthroat. I'm telling you, it's cutthroat.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, no, it's tough because I was talking this on our last episode. A lot of what you have to do, I'm realizing, is to get to just one book at the end of it. That means the other books have to be eliminated to some extent, which is, it feels, this is like a weird part of the competition, or maybe it never stops being like this, where you're like, I joined SPFBO to support self-published books and help them out. And I realize I guess we are helping with writing reviews and giving that publicity, but sometimes you lose track when you're in this part where you're cutting books. So yeah, it's something that luckily, at least my experience with it, everyone's been really gracious and everyone's been really understanding, like, this is the process, but I know that's not necessarily always been everyone's experience of it. And I'm super fledgling, so I don't.
Yeah, definitely not. But I think generally it's super positive. I think about it like this. Maybe your book wasn't my cup of tea, or there was a reason why we had to cut it, but it's somebody's cup of tea. And we put it out there, and people are going to see it. You're going to find those readers.
Exactly.
You know, it's, and I try to always call out the positives. I might say, okay, I felt like I had difficulties with the pacing. However, the characterizations were really amazing, and start talking about that, because everything's got something good.
Yeah, I remember reading Dylan's review, and he was like, yeah, it's got like mermaids and hoverboards in the same story. And I'm like, there's a market out there that's going to buy that just on that line, you know? So it's like, no matter what happens, it's like you identified the group that, you know, here's the things that is why you should read it. And if that interests you, you're in good shape. So I always, you know, appreciate that in these SPFBO reviews. But before we get too into the weeds, let's go ahead and say the purpose of today is to actually talk about what is SPFBO, the self-published fantasy blog off. And Beth, I guess I'm going to turn this over to you in the hot seat here. What is like the quick elevator pitch of what SPFBO is?
SPFBO was a competition started by Mark Lawrence. This is year 7, to shine a spotlight on self-published fantasy and, you know, bring fantasy to the masses. Because the hardest part, I shouldn't say hardest part, but that one of the hard parts is that an author has to wear all the hats when you're a self-published author. So you have to write it. A lot of times they do their own editing, although that's changing. You know, sometimes they have to do their own cover and they have to do their own marketing. And so SPFBO is a way to get the word out, you know, get talking about these absolutely incredible books.
Yeah.
Right. And it's relatively new at 7 years too, right? Like I've always just thought it was older than that, but I see like this is a fast growing part of the fantasy community, is the independent author, the self-published. And as, you know, things like, you know, technology, e-readers, things like that, it's just become more and more accessible to write and self-publish your own book. And with that comes the need to like give this sort of marketing support to these books, and the like also the accolades to these books that they deserve and may not necessarily get without having a publisher.
Yep. And the market is changing rapidly. Like the percentage of books bought that are self-published versus traditionally published, it's going to be, it's going to keep changing more and more as we become less glued to brick and mortar stores.
Right. That's exciting.
Not that I don't love me a nice hard copy.
Me too. But yeah, I mean, giving more people the power to tell their own story, that's not just an exciting thing. And this is a competition, right? It's a blog off, which means there is a winner, right? So how many books get at the first round are entered that we then end up with one winner?
So he opens it up. I don't know if it's 24 hours, opens it up for 24 hours, or he opens it up till it's full. But he says, okay, it's opening up, and he puts the information on the website, and then authors just start submitting like mad to get a slot.
Right.
And at 300 it cuts off, as far as I know.
Right. Really, it says like 250 plus, it says on the website.
Yeah.
So
it filled up in 21 hours this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the authors are waiting. They've got their package of, cover and stuff ready to go, ready to push the submit buttons.
Right. So for self-published authors, this is one of those like bigger avenues in which this is a contest that for a self-published individual, this is one of as big as it gets in the community, would you say, like in terms of like an accolade?
I don't know of anything bigger for self-published fantasy.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
That's how I've always felt about it as well.
Being like a SPFBO winner, to me, I guess biased because being a part of it this year, but even before I joined, it was always, to me, the biggest award that I could think of for a self-published fantasy book to win, and for an author who's doing self-published fantasy to win.
Yeah. You know that the books that win are good.
Yeah. That are finalists too. That's like a huge deal to be a finalist.
Yeah. Like we've had Levi on a couple times, Levi Jacobs on a couple of times. Awesome dude. And he's a great author, and he's SPFBO finalist, and you're going to be.
That's an accolade in its own, just the fact, because there's with those 250, 300 books, there's like 10 finalists. So that in its own right is a huge accomplishment. So we always
just getting to that level, you've entered the community. People know about your book.
Right. And that's the real takeaway from winning or being a finalist. There's no prize, there's no award. You don't get published or anything like that, right?
Well, there's a selfie stick award, but on that, Mark Lawrence has a great sort of what is SPFBO type thing where he delineates the rules and stuff of the competition. And he says, but the winner will receive the prestigious selfie stick award, but the true prize is the publicity of being the winner. And says, plus the bonus of being reviewed on the blogs of 10 highly respected fantasy bloggers, such as you, Beth.
Yeah.
I'm very excited we got chosen this year. It was very cool.
That's right. So the team these judges are 10 book blogs. And Before We Go blog is one of them. Beth Taylor spearheading that. And that is exciting. And how long have you been involved in SPFBO? How long have you been a blogger? And how did you get involved? How'd you get in that?
So 2005, the fifth contest. I don't even remember. Somehow it came up that a team was looking for people, and it was Team Quillery for the Quillery. You guys are familiar. Really great site. And so I'm like, hey, can I join? I really love to be part of this, and they let me be part of this. And I went through that process as a team member. And then last year, I threw my hat in the ring. I wanted to run a team, but it's a very coveted position. People want to have that going on. And then this year, I'm like, try again, and then we got selected. So.
That's good. So you have to submit the blog to get selected?
You have to. I don't think there's a formal submitting process, but you have to talk about it with Mark. You have to talk about it with other members that are staying, other blogs that are staying. as reviewers. You
So
know,
you reached out to Mark directly? It was like, hey, I have this blog.
actually, it was through Mahir.
Got it.
Mm.
Got it.
Yeah. And because he's a good friend, and he knows about my site and stuff. And I think they go and they like look at your social presence, if you're an active member of the community, because
Right.
it would really suck if somebody wasn't like said, oh, I'm going to do this, and then not, and then disappear. Like that would
Because it's
be,
become so popular, a blog would want to do it just to say they're doing it, and then not
like,
deliver as much as a more enthusiastic blog would do. Yeah, it's like there's only 10 spots, and no one like mine. Like people are volunteering their time to be judges on this and review and things like that. So it all comes down to just the passion of the blogger and of the community to make this contest work.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, we got selected. I got to put together a team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So
it's a crazy amount of work.
I can only imagine. So for your team specifically this year, SPFBO 7, including you and Dylan, how many people are on the Before We Go blog team?
9, I think.
9. And then how many books do you guys get to review at the first round, the biggest, sort of round?
30.
30.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and there can only be one, so that can emerge.
Yeah, so we'll do 30, and then the way that I've got it structured is we'll do 30, and then we'll each. I hate to call it a slush pile, but it kind of is. You go through, you read a percentage of the book, and or finish the book, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I finished one so far. I thought it was really fun. You pick your next round pick, and then so that drops it down to 10 or 9, as it were. And then we're going to do this again and a bit more in depth. And then we'll drop to 3, and then we'll pick our finalist from that 3. Yeah. And then the next step is that every blog has their finalist, and now we have to review the 10 books.
Got it.
It's a year-long process, so we have time to do it, but it's some people read slower, some people read faster.
Got it. Yeah. So the community of judges is selected from the book community who volunteer their time to agree to read and judge these books. There's 10 of them. They each get 10 books, and then they end up narrowing it down to 1, and each blog submits 1 book to be a finalist.
This is their champion of a sort.
$30.
Yeah, they each get 30 books, but they narrow it down to 1, which is then submitted as a finalist, and then everyone reads those 10 to choose a winner.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you've got your champion and your but there's a lot of great books this year. Crazy amount of great books this year. And our group alone, we have a lot of excellent books.
Yeah, I was going to say, you started at SPFBO 5. Have you noticed any trends from 5 to 7?
The books in 5 are really good too.
Yeah.
I know. The only thing that I notice is that there tends to be there's trending towards higher quality covers.
Oh yeah.
People spending the money to hire artists themselves and really put a gorgeous cover, because even in an electronic medium, a cover matters. Makes you think.
Oh, yeah.
And it has to look good. It has to look good as a thumbnail, which is really important, because when you're paging through something to read, that thumbnail has to get your excitement, and then you have to click on it. So that's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
And, but the books are just as good. It's a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. There is some repeat authors, ones that have won the contest before. We'll just give them a fair shake for their new series and see how it stacks up. And but
it sounds like the first 21 hours, all those 300 spots were filled. Have you noticed like a growth in the contest itself, like people talking about it?
I think it's bigger. I think that I don't know how long it took the contest to fill originally, but I believe that it's shrinking.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, no, I think it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a goal as a new author, like to try and get something in SPFBO. If you're going to independently publish your book, it's like one of the best things you could do, it would seem.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys right now are in the process of turning your 30 books into one, right?
Yeah.
And then, so how has that process been going? I guess both Beth and Dylan, you guys can weigh in on this.
Sure.
And it's like, what does that look like? Is it different from each blog? Like, have you set your team up in a specific way that like, it's like, okay, you read 3 books, you read 3 books, and it's like, and then we vote. Like, how do you go from 30 to 1? It seems like a lot of pressure.
So our team, because it's bigger, there's, I think, less pressure, which is the reason why I wanted to get more people on the team. Some teams are 2 people and they have to go through the books. I don't know how. There's one, we have 2
Jeez.
just one person.
Yeah,
more power to them. Yeah.
It's just, I bow down before them. Yeah, and they pick their next step. I'm calling it, because semifinalist is a little, because it's like a 4-tier process. So we're ramping up to the next step. We have one book that we have chosen that is going to be one of our next ones we judge, and then in about 15 minutes from now, I'm releasing the next book.
Oh, ayo.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time you listen to this, check it out.
Yeah.
And then once we get through the original stack, we can start doing a more in-depth look at some of these books.
That makes sense. And Dylan, as a first-time like judge contributor to SPFBO, what's your process been like in terms of like reviewing? Like your first review you dropped a few weeks ago. Like, how has the experience been as someone new to the SPFBO team?
Yeah, I mean, the reading, first of all, being on the Before We Go blog team is awesome, and just being a part of, like, we have this fun group chat and all this stuff. Everyone's so nice. So that's been awesome. The reading of the books has been really cool, and I've been extremely impressed. I mean, Charles and I've been talking a lot. We're trying to get more into reading more indie authors, reading more self-published books. We talk a lot about how like our background here, just 2 guys who used to go to bestfantasybooks.com to figure out what next to read. And while that is a great site, it was not, it's not exactly the self-published beacon of the community going to that site. So we weren't picking up as many self-published books as we now do, and as we continue on to. And I'm very, very impressed. And I feel like I got 3 books from Beth to read for my section of pushing 1 through. I know which one I definitely want to put through. So does Beth. But I've been very impressed by all 3 of them, really. And it's tough because of that part of like, like I have to, these are all good, and that makes it fun to read, but hard to feel like you want to put them all through, and you want to support indie authors. So it's
that's what
fun,
the Before We Go blog has done, right?
Yeah.
You do publish a review on every single book that you read. So even if one is not selected as your champion, it's still highlighted and featured on the blog itself, right? That you discuss all of them, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
We also do buy links. So like if you see the book, you can click on the link and be sent over to, it's usually Amazon, and buy that book to support that author if you want to. I'm trying to make the connection easier for people so that they can just, that sounds like a dope book. I want to read that and support the author. And looking at the Facebook group, there's there is a Facebook group that's dedicated to this, and the authors talk about that. Like, it's like, it was a really big bummer to get cut, but and other people are like, well, I just discovered your book and I just bought it and it sounds really cool. And
it's a bummer to get cut for sure, but you do get featured. And I know in Dylan's review, he made an effort to like make that connection of like, this is all the reasons to read this book and check it out. It's not because there can only be 10 finalists in 300, and it seems like there's just so many great books. And I feel like there's a lot of people, like we recently went to Twitter to try and get like indie book recommendations, and we got more engagement on that post than any other post we've ever done. So I think there's just a lot of people out there that do like the idea of reading more independently published works and finding that discovery. And SPFBO having these 10 blogs write reviews on all of these books, it's a great way for someone to like do their own shopping, so to speak, and find the book that's for them. It seems like a centralized place to consider independently published books, which may not have been a resource for people 7 years ago, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience too, is Beth, you were getting at this earlier. It ends up coming down to what are you into? What are your subjective tastes? And then trying to find a way to say, hey, like I might be cutting this one because the things that really made it shine were things that don't align with my tastes as well as they might align with other folks' tastes. Here are those things, and here's why you might love them. And then here's kind of what I would have been looking for more of for me personally. And just do your best to that. That's why I try to do with that review. And then I can see already you can't get your own subjective tastes as a reader out of the reviewing process. It's just any efforts to do it in my mind become just almost this veil of quote unquote objectivity that are just you expressing your own tastes anyway, but pretending they're objective. And I would never try to do that. So for me, it's like the one that's likely to come through is the stuff that fits with my tastes, which are being like really character focused, psychological, and like interesting relationships and that kind of stuff. And it's
books
just
that
kind
aren't
of
that are still really good for other reasons, like engaging world building, like vast cultures, histories, things like that.
Hugely atmospheric.
Yes. And then there's other people who that's the number one thing that they're looking for. So how do you find a way to highlight
That's a really popular
that?
reason to read fantasy over other genres. You can get crazy into the mythology of a new world, right? So it's like you want to make sure that people that prefer that, even when they read your review, can find stuff that's different. You know?
Those more into the anthropological or sociological or I do like some political, but like those kind of things over the psychological. I want to be able to say, hey, this one's for you.
It's really just luck who you get right off the bat. Honestly. And when I was passing out the books, I did it randomly because I didn't know of any other good way of handling it. So I just made a graph and I just, you go here and just did it randomly. And those are the books. I think it's pretty fair because we all like different things.
Any more trying to be giving the right books to the right people is just extra work without any benefit, probably. I think you made the right call.
I know. And honestly, you don't want everyone to just love all the books and be fighting for the number one spot, you know?
The book has to stand on its own in the end, though, too. It's got to stand on its own. It's got to resonate with all sorts of different readers. So if you've got a book that's like, hey, this is really great, but I didn't enjoy it because I'm not the right reader for this. Okay, totally true. But it's going to pass through a lot of reviewers and it's got to be able to be recognized as like, this is something really great, by all sorts of different people.
Right. And that's how you know that the book that ends up being the winner is one that so many people of so many various tastes were saying amazing things about, that it's going to have that mass appeal and be something that has a very high likelihood of any reader picking it up really, really enjoying.
Trying to think of the winners. One of the ones that I read that I really, really liked was Orconomics.
Oh yeah. So I haven't read that one yet, but like satirical, funny. Charles and I are in the New York City metropolitan region, so it's got some Wall Street kind of satire to it or things like that.
It's hilarious. It is hilarious, but it's got heart, and it was just entertaining as hell.
That's great.
And we've been talking about rushing Sword of Kaigen onto our immediate TBR as well, and we've been pretty excited about that one.
Was that from SPFBO 5, Beth?
That is 2018. I don't know.
Oh, that might be 4. I don't remember.
So like I've read The Thief Who Pulled on Trouble's Braids by Mike McClung. Fantastic. I mean, like it's short, but it packs a huge punch. And then The Gray Bastards. The Gray Bastards is the third book for the Gray Bastards series is actually coming out next month too, which is and it's been traditionally published now. It's so but it's grimdark.
Yeah.
Oh. Charles and I love some Grimdark. And
it is. And then Where Loyalties Lie, I haven't read. Orconomics, Sword of Kagan, and The Lost War. I haven't read the last two. Sword of Kagan is a chunker, and I just haven't had the time to really devote too much to it yet.
Yeah, understandable.
You need the emotional.
I mean, you're trying to read 30 books for the blog, that would take us like a year to do. So
we're amazed by how much you're getting done over there, Beth.
I've had a really rough year. Like 2020 and 2021 have sucked. For me, but like in general, they have just sucked. And I haven't been reading that much. I think I'm at 65 books for the year. 66.
You're not reading that much, Beth. Like, you walk around, you talk to some people, like, it's been a year of just not reading a lot, only 65. I guarantee people will look at you with some like wide eyes. Yeah, you're doing an amazing job. You've read a lot more than Charles and I have.
That's why you're a pillar of this SPFBO community for sure.
A couple of years ago, I guess I was doing pretty well. I think I hit 247 for the year.
Oh my God.
That is not happening. That 2020 and 2021 have broke me. Broke my ability. It's like YouTube videos. I can do YouTube videos right now. You gotta be able to get your brain in.
Yeah, you gotta change it up every once in a while.
Podcasts are a great form of entertainment, Beth.
You can pop up on my Spotify every time you release something. I listen to it while I'm cleaning the kitchen.
Oh, good.
Thanks. That's awesome. I feel good about self-promoting until then people say nice things. I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? Thank you, Beth. We appreciate it.
And it's like, and that's interesting about the timing of everything, because SPFBO seems like it's like, talk me through like the timing. It seems like it's always going, right? How far are we into SPFBO 7? How long until like a finalist is announced? And then when does SPFBO 8 start? If anyone knows that answer, I don't.
May? I think it's May.
There's
a month. There's like 1 month where there's just prep behind the scenes and nothing's going on, and then it starts up again. So I think it's May. I'm not really May of 2022. I'm not really up on that particular part. That's more like
But basically the timing of it works is like there's several more months to go before SPFBO 7 is done, and there's like a month of downtime before several. 8.
Well, there's the two phases, right, Beth? The first one, which is at 5 months, and the second one, which is 6 months. So the whole thing is 11 months, and then that month of prepping for the next one. And I remember Beth was assembling our team while the SPFBO 6 was still going on, when Beth was reaching out to be like, who wants to join for SPFBO 7? I was like, SPFBO 7? It's like, wait, which SPFBO are we on over here?
Because I found out that we got selected and I had to put everything together, which means that I hired a web developer to do the site because I really wanted to make
it. It looks great, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted it to be really accessible and have the links so we can see where we are. And so I had to do that. And then I had to find the team members, and we had to get everybody up to speed. And then when you're passing out the books, we have to go through the books to see if they meet all the criteria. And we have to make sure that there's no overlaps. And we have to make sure there's no conflict of interest. Like if you are friends with somebody who is submitting, that's a conflict of interest. Yeah, that would be a conflict of interest.
I made sure to throw that one out there when you were asked. I was like, I think I was saying Levi's too awesome for me to be able to review.
Yeah, something like that. And that's interesting. Are there any like hard written guidelines or just the ones that you created for yourself in terms of like how you judge these books?
There is no hard written guidelines
Mhm.
as far as I know. You know, they have to meet the criteria, of course, set out by Mark. But no, I like it. Did I feel your story? Did
Yeah.
was I like enthralled by it?
Mm.
Was there a lot of I'm sorry if there's a lot of punctuation errors that throws me as a reader out of the story.
Mhm.
You know, is that something that is present? You know, is it very jarring? Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. And I can tell, like, you know, this is something I think that'll go really far, or this is something that maybe will not appeal, doesn't have quite the right thing to look that works.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so it sounds like as a blog group, as one of the 10 judge groups in this competition, you have a lot of creative freedom in which how you judge and select these books. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and all I've said, everybody's got their own voice on our team. Very specifically, they have their own voice. So I don't want to do anything that changes or tries to meld our voices together into one generic type of review. Everybody's got their own style, and I want very much for people to write. Like, for instance, Ganesh, GM, hilarious dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just fantastic. And he writes really funny reviews.
Right.
And that's his wheelhouse. Like, he likes humor. That's his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I'm giving plug his book, Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire. So fun.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious sounding
great,
title. Yeah, and I'm just looking at Mark Lawrence's rules to enter SPFBO, and they're really high level stuff, like has to be first book in a series, can't be re-entered, one book per author, no short stories, no anthologies. You know, there's nothing really restrictive about what it takes to, and it has to be actually self-published before you submit it, like things like that. Nothing too strict. It seems like the whole point of it is to be as open as possible, it seems, and then to bring it in and then just have the judges select a book that, you know, hits them on multiple levels.
It's so subjective. Like, you can't say, is this book funny? Because what's funny? What's funny to you is not necessarily funny to me. Or, you know, this book has to have politics in it. Well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, so he set out the guidelines, and then we as reviewers have the freedom to make choices, make informed choices.
Got it. So one of my last questions that I have is, as someone who's not in like a blog team, not a judge, things like that, what is the best way someone interested in following SPFBO and like that wants to maybe pick up some of these books? How does someone who not in the book community but starting to get interested, like how do they follow SPFBO? How do they check out some of these reviews? How do they discover some of these books? Because that's a big part of it, right?
Okay, so there's multiple ways. If you guys are on Facebook, there is a SPFBO Facebook group that is for authors and reviewers. So whenever we release a review, we post it there as well. And then, you know, so if you're a reader, you can just click to the different reviews, and they have a lot of really great discussions between the authors and tips, and you can see a lot of the different authors. You can get familiarized yourself with.
So as just someone who's interested in the community, if they can drop a message in there and potentially talk to some of these authors.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. If you're not on Facebook, which, you know, some of us wish we weren't.
I have some family members that I wish weren't, but
Goodreads is another good place to go, because if you guys do you guys use Goodreads?
We have an account and we use it. Like we
use it as a reference all the time.
Yeah,
but we don't contribute to it.
We're working on that. We have our FTF podcast account, and we aspire to do more reviewing on there for sure.
But it is a great reference.
It's a great site. Yeah.
There's a section on Goodreads for lists. So when you're at the top, and it's kind of difficult to find, but if you one of the scroll down menus, it says like Listopia or I don't know, list something. You click on it and then type in SPFBO. And all of the people have put together lists of every person who has entered or who has won, or military science fiction that happens to be in SPFBO, or that's another really great reference because it'll give you everything in aggregate. And so you can start looking at the covers, and you can see the ratings, although ratings is an entirely different conversation on Goodreads, but you can start seeing, like, you could click on it and then go to the review section. And a lot of reviewers, myself included, post our reviews there. So you can see our reviews there too. And like, is this something I'd be interested in? You go from there.
No, that's cool. Yeah. I'm perusing Goodreads right now, and I see SPFBO 7 2021. There's multiple parts already.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. You can also follow Beth Tabler at Beth Tabler to get our reviews on Twitter, that is.
I'm so creative at Beth Tabler.
Hey, you're talking to friends talking fantasy. So sometimes descriptive but not creative is the best way to go. And I think that a Twitter handle at Beth Tabler is a great place to find Beth Tabler. So
I made that Twitter like in 2006 or something.
Wow.
It was or 2008, and it's like Beth Tabler. I'll just go with Beth Tabler. I'm not very creative at this point. And then I just started using it, and now I'm at Beth Tabler.
Yeah, nice. I'm at Dylan R. Marsh on my personal, so and I probably would have taken Dylan Marsh if it was still available. So, yeah, no, definitely no shame about just going with the full name, right?
Exactly.
And it's also, there's that hashtag SPFBO and hashtag SPFBO7 that you can take a look at on Twitter. That's kind of where I do most.
And also on Mark Lawrence's blog, there's like the main contest page. It lists all of the judges, including Before We Go blog, with links to them. So you could follow all these blogs directly and then get their articles as they come in. Seems like a great resource to do. That's kind of what I do. I'm on Twitter, so I follow all these blog people, and then I just get the reviews as they come up, and get to sometimes a lot of the authors are on Twitter as well, and they're ready to talk about their books all the time. So that for me is a great resource, but it sounds like, there's lots of opportunities, and we'll put some of these links in the description. We'll obviously link to Before We Go blog and then to Mark Lawrence's page, so that you'll have like a starting point. If you started here with us, you can click to some of those pages and learn more about SPFBO and some of these great books that are coming out. Like Dylan's been talking about some of them, and like I've gotten to see some of the covers and get some of his early thoughts, and it sounds really exciting. And we're gonna talk about some of them on the show, I'm sure. And we got so many recs. Indie books are on the brain right now for everybody. So it's gonna be a bloodbath. I think our group, somebody actually called, what did they call us?
The group of death or something like that.
They called us the group of death.
I think
we have to cut 29 people at the end of the day.
Well, we have so many great books in the group. I believe that's what they're getting at. Not the personalities in there. I like to think we're all really nice, but we've got so many incredible books to choose from that people have referred to us as the group of death.
It's like mowing over authors as we go with our little.
Oh no! Just why we got into the SPFBO competition.
All the more reason to check out the blog and check out all these reviews, because you're not here to crush hopes, dreams. You're here to spotlight authors.
It's like instead of stars, we have hatchets. This is a 5-hatchet book.
Yes. How many deaths caused by how many?
You just
hatchets?
have the side that you're walking through.
Oh yeah, sides,
and just like this.
We should use that for Halloween. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's a Forsyth book.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Not quite 5 sides, but
4.5. It's
4.5. Okay, it's hard to get 5 sides.
You don't just get 5 sides. Beth, this has been such a pleasure having you on, chatting books. Before we wrap things up, I just want to make sure, like, is there anything else you want to say about SPFBO, or before we go blog, before we tell people to go follow you again and all that stuff?
Do you guys know about the science fiction version?
I was just hearing about that. Yeah, tell us more about it.
Okay, so there's a science fiction version. It's run by Hugh Howey. If you guys, he wrote Wool and stuff. And it's very similar. It's the same sort of idea as SPFBO, but it has different rules. It's run a little bit differently. And it's the same thing. It takes science fiction, self-published novels, teams, you go through and we're going to pick our champion and stuff.
And is that a relatively new competition, or has it been around for a while?
First year.
First year.
Just starting.
Wow, the ground floor.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Kinks in it and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll work out, and that's good to see that.
How do we say SPFBO? It's self-published science fiction competition. Is that it?
You know what? I think he refers to it as space sick, but to me it's SPFBO. It's SPFBO.
SPFBO sounds great.
It's in my head. It's SPFBO. I don't know how to.
SPFBO.
So it's because it's SPSFC, self-published science fiction competition. It's you said space fic, like space fiction. I like SPFBO.
Yeah,
I like SPFBO too.
We'll see once it's turned over to the community how what people start doing with it. That's how these things work sometimes, right? That's awesome. Well, that's science fiction. That's really cool. Have to get our science fiction friends more involved in that.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, science fiction is awesome. I love fantasy, but I really like science fiction.
Science fiction was my first love for sure.
Yeah, I am old. I've read so much old school science fiction. Heinlein, Day of the Triffids.
Wow.
It's over my head, Beth. I haven't gotten as into science fiction. So yeah, every time I'm like, oh yeah, nod and smile, Dill, nod and smile.
We're getting more and more into it. There's some great modern stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh yeah. Martha Wells writing.
Oh, Murderbot.
Oh my God. So good. Yeah. Oh, Becky Chambers writing great stuff. You read those, Beth?
I have. I just read one of her books. It's a novella that won last year. Bunch of awards. I'm really bad with book names because I can tell you all about what was inside the book, but I can't remember the book name.
You're moving fast.
Yeah, when some years you're reading 250 plus books, it's hard to remember all the titles, I'm sure.
Yeah, the book that I read by her was about a group of astronauts who are seeking to find a planet that is habitable for humanity because humans have destroyed the planet or destroyed Earth, and it's all of the parts of trying to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's good. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet has such great found family vibes, and I absolutely adore that one. I think Fiction Fans did an episode on that recently too.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, you've been talking about that one for a while.
Yeah.
You guys like Andy Weir?
Charles, you've read Andy Weir, right? You've read is it not The Martian? I'm gonna embarrass myself here.
Oh, The Martian. Yeah, I love The Martian. Dylan would like The Martian quite a bit.
It's fun.
I've seen the movie.
The book is more interesting because it's like journal entries instead of like a narrative. So you're getting the story through journal entries, and the voice of this guy is really funny. I'd say the humor is in the same vein of like our tastes, which is why I think it would be a good recommendation for you.
A geeky sort of edge to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I interviewed Andy Weir
oh wow,
a few months ago. And
you gotta find that.
And he's awesome. He's a very, very nice dude. I bring it up because he released a book recently that is science fiction that I love so much. I can't remember the name of it.
I bet I could. I actually had someone in my in my psychology PhD program, I had someone reach out to me to ask if I read it. The discrepancy for me between the amount of fantasy I've read and the amount of science fiction I've read, I think is kind of rare. But I'll see if I can. Oh, did
I
you
see
find it,
there's
Charles?
one Project Hail Mary that's
Project Hail Mary.
is available for pre-order. So I see that.
Oh, it's
Hail
isn't
Mary.
it out? Is it not? It's out. No, it should be out.
Okay,
Maybe that it's the one before that then.
Hold on,
Let me see if I can find.
But yeah, Andy Weir, like that was a really interesting, because sometimes like when a book is described as funny, for me I get a little nervous. But that one is genuinely like a really fun book and funny, and yeah, great voice in that one. No surprise that it was a movie with Matt Damon and all that. It was a good movie too, but the book has a unique style to it that they did a good job adapting, but it's still worth checking out the book because it's so different just in terms of its narrative and things like that.
They're going to make Project Hail Mary a movie. I can't remember if he alluded to that, or I found that when I was doing research for the interview. But yeah, it's totally going to be made into a movie. And it has that geeky humor to it.
And that interview is on Before We Go Blog.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the more. So there's something for fantasy and science fiction fans as well.
Yes.
There's something for everybody on the Before We Go Blog.
That just to talk about his work for just a second. The egg. One of
I've read that. It's very short, but
it's really short. I think it's 5 pages, but it got turned into a YouTube video, which in turn, I don't know how many people have seen it, but 100 million. It's got to be over 100 million.
Wow, that's awesome.
And people are like, yeah, this is this is my religion now. And
I know someone who would say that basically. Yeah, that's why I end up reading it.
No, man, I wrote it in a half an hour. This is something fun. Don't L. Ron Hubbard me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to make it my religion per se, but I'll say that it's extremely thoughtful, and it's I don't want to spoil a 5-page thing that people could just go read very quickly, but it's really good.
It's really good. It's great.
I want to see this YouTube video now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I'll tell you who did it, since I have my iPad right here.
Fantastic.
Access to information.
And isn't it a beautiful thing?
Yes. Let's see. The egg.
We are pulling it up now. Beth is on the case.
Kyrgyzstan.
22
million views. Sorry, not 100 million. 22 million.
No small feat, though.
Yeah, 7 minutes, 55 seconds. Could change your life. Could be your new religion, potentially. It's
yes.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's high praise indeed, and we'll have to check that out. But Beth, thank you so much for your expertise and for coming in and sharing us your time. It's like you've done so much for the community over the past couple of years, judging on SPFBO, reading all these books, fantasy, science fiction. We see you on podcasts all the time, promoting independent works, and you're doing interviews all the time. And it's so great to see someone in the community just selflessly putting all these people out there. And we have used Before We Go Blog as a resource for a while now, and we just did to talk to you now. It's really great.
Yeah,
great. That makes me so happy. This is a lot of work. It was really good.
We can tell.
I can only imagine. I can't believe the amount
how much work we do, and then we see what you do, and we're like, wow. She's like a saint.
Yes, and Dylan, we're about to hit 1,000 articles.
Oh my God. I'm a very, very, very small percentage of that. But I think that is such a testament to your work, Beth. And it's such an honor. I mean, an honor to be part of the team now, and an absolute honor to have you on FTF as well. You take the time to come out here. It's so cool, Beth. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode about SPFBO. We're going to be, talking about some of the books that are going to come up in SPFBO 7 this year. We're going to be following the Before We Go blog very closely this year. So if you like what you heard today, if this sounds interesting to you, check out some of the resources that we're going to put in the description. Hopefully you find a good indie book that resonates with you and give it a shot. And we'll look out for more content this month on all kinds of independently published books and works and reviews and discussions and recommendations and all that stuff.
So much coming. Yeah.
So much coming down the line. And yeah, Beth, thank you so much. I'm working on this title for you, like the patron saint of fantasy bloggers.
Put that in the Twitter bio.
Yeah. I don't think you can put that in your own bio, but we'll talk to you. We'll talk about you like that.
Okay, we can do that.
The patron saint of fantasy bloggers.
That's funny.
That's the title I'm working on right now. That's the workshop. You're seeing the gears turning live on air.
Has he showed you our mascot?
Oh, the Elmo? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For hashtag Team Beth with fire emojis is like.
That's why.
Yeah, maybe you're the patron demon then.
And we wonder why people call us the group of death, Beth.
I guess that's a good point.
Yeah.
We're really nice, guys. We're really nice.
She said with an Elmo gif with everything on fire.
Yeah.
5 sides.
Exactly. Yep, guys, check out Beth Tabler's on Twitter. Check out Before We Go blog. Thank you all so much for listening. Anything else before we wrap it up? All right, guys. That's our pleasure, Beth. Our pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My daughter's gonna think I'm so cool. It's great.
Oh, there we
Wow.
go. Yeah.
Who knew that our nerdy little podcast could help people feel cool? I'm absolute. Yeah, this is so cool, Beth. We feel really cool having you on. So I guess it's the feeling is mutual there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much, Beth, for coming on. Thank you, the listener, so much for listening all the way to the end. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you for listening. And as always, guys, go forth and conquer, friends.